Good morning, good morning. Welcome to my Monday messages. That was quite an interesting little synchronicity. What happened to me just now, which is why I'm a bit late, is that I couldn't connect to the internet, and which is unusual for my phone, actually. Maybe a result of the storms that I'm going to kind of touch on this morning. But interesting to me because that's what I'm talking about today, is actually being plugged in and the effects of it. So, yeah, just makes me laugh when things like that happen. And the universe goes, you sure? Anyway, first of all, I wanted to say a massive thank you to all the wonderful women who attended my or our vision board workshop, Vibe Up Your Vision and Design Your Destiny, which finally happened after having to be cancelled because of the snow. It took place yesterday. Despite the rain and the wind. And actually, that's an interesting thing to note too, that at one stage there was a belief in the air that the same level of storm was going to happen again on Sunday that had happened on the previous Friday. And all of us who came to the workshop yesterday chose to believe that it was all going to be fine. And it was. So we had a beautiful, beautiful day. I loved it. I know my colleague Ellen loved it. And it was such a pleasure to be in the room with a group of just beautiful souls and to see them all start to create, first of all, beautiful vision boards, amazing vision boards, and also start to design what those vision boards are going to help call to them. So I, for one, cannot wait to do another one of these vision board workshops, because they don't have to be done at the beginning of the year, not at all. Now, excuse me, I've got a bit of rubbish on my lens. So anyway, I'm digressing, because what I was going to talk about today was the big storm that came and hit Ireland pretty badly. Knocked our power out for 2 days, actually. And it was really interesting to notice the results. Obviously, we are all dependent, watch that belief, on electricity, or we think we are, we believe we are. And so initially it was quite discombobulating to not have any of the things that normally occupy all our time. And I'm talking about myself, my husband, and my son. And for me and my husband, it didn't take long for us to kind of get back on track and, just shift our focus onto something else. And actually, for me, certainly, it allowed me to do quite a few things that I would not have done otherwise. If I was in, if I'd been able to access electricity normally, so therefore the internet, my laptop, my phone, all the things that I do without even thinking about them every day, it actually allowed me to do some of the things that aren't dependent on that I had been putting on the long finger. So it was, in a way, it was a blessing to me, because it reminded me of how much can be done or felt or achieved or experienced, if you like, without necessarily the aid of plugging into some kind of external synthetic electrical charge. I'm talking about that literally, but also energetically. What happens, and I notice this really strongly, is when we are without power, all the kind of habitual things that we do, the stuff that has become automatic, that we literally have no conscious thought around, like going into rooms and automatically switching a light, switching a switch because we want the light on. automatically going to the toaster and putting bread in and putting the thing down and expecting toast to pop up. Switching the phone on, scrolling, opening up the laptop and doing whatever work comes from that. Those things, once they're removed, they actually enabled me to remember that actually, do you know what? I can still do stuff. There's an awful lot of things that I can do that are not dependent on being on the internet or being on my phone or all of those things. And I do feel that largely that's because I have life experience to draw upon, that I can say, oh yeah, I remember when we didn't have the internet, when we didn't have mobile phones. Even I've experienced enough prolonged power cuts through, when I was a teen, there were national power cuts regularly because the electricity workers were striking and all sorts of people were striking during the Thatcher years in the UK. So we became very independent and self-sufficient and creative about how to do things and how to occupy ourselves. And of course, generations even older than me, especially in Ireland, were used to not having electricity at all until quite late on, actually. So they are not fazed by it because they know you get the candles out, you sing, you tell stories, you come together. And that is what happened with us as a family. We all came together in one room because it was pointless trying to light or heat more than one room. So that's an energy saver in itself. Made us really think about the amount of space that we have and, the fact that normally we would perhaps be all disappearing into separate rooms. Interesting. So it actually gave us more connection with each other rather than less. And we ended up playing games which made us laugh like drains. Simple things like Jenga could give so much pleasure because we're doing it together. And because all people's tactics and their needs really come out, and it's quite funny to notice them. There was all of that. My son found it quite difficult to adjust to not having access to the things that he is completely reliant on. And it was quite a learning curve for him. He's 26. So he doesn't have actually any memories to draw on, really, that are, of a time when this kind of connection to an external power source was just not available. And so, even silly things like, Mum, I can't have my cup of coffee the way I like it because I normally get it from the little coffee machine that he's got. And I had to remind him, there are other ways of making coffee. And, let go of that and learn that actually you can do things a number of different ways and they don't all have to rely on that external power source. Anyway, I could go on and on about examples of that, but it made me think about the disempowering beliefs that can come from us being overly dependent on an external power source. And we do tend to forget how resourceful and creative and adaptable we are. And I think it would really be useful for us to pause sometimes and just remind ourselves that we can actually have a very rich and fulfilling and powerful life without necessarily being dependent on that external power. It's when we get back to basics that we can actually remind ourselves, we can re-plug ourselves in to what really matters. And I'm not advocating that we live completely without electricity. I have no desire to do that. It is, like most things, good and bad. it depends on how we utilize that resource. And if we become overly dependent on any one thing, then we're going to get let down, or we're going to feel let down and disappointed and disempowered when that thing is withdrawn. So at the very least, I mean, we are definitely thinking about some kind of power source that is completely under our control and not anybody else's. That's one way to go, of course. But the other thing might be just to have a regular reminder of how many things we're doing habitually, instinctively, automatically, to get us into that overly dependent state. So I'm thinking of just really simple things like, if you use an electrical toothbrush, for example, don't use it for a day. Use a normal manual toothbrush. If you have the ability to have an evening, one evening, even if it's once a month, where you do everything by candlelight, and you don't switch on the television, you don't switch on the phones. You have a kind of unplugged, evening as a family, or even individually. That we can actually have a break from being on our phones or online. Even switching hands when we're doing things make us more mindful, more present, more conscious of something that we're doing completely unconsciously. And then we can actually go, actually, I'm now mindful. I'm completely present to what I'm doing. Do I want to continue this, or don't I want to continue it? It becomes a choice rather than a habit. And that goes for our emotional responses as well, which we touched on in the workshop very much, that we're all driven by habitual beliefs and behaviours that have often been set up a long time ago. And because they've become automatic, we don't even notice them until we experience the results. And then we ask ourselves, well, how have I got here? And what I'm trying to encourage you this week to do is to become conscious of those things as much as you can. And that might start with the electricity thing, but it might also be just choosing one thing that you really, really want to experience more of in your 2025, and you feel that you wanted that last year as well, but you didn't really achieve it. Just start to ask yourself why that might be the case. What do I believe about myself, maybe, that is probably getting in the way of me experiencing that? Anyway, I am going to say thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for plugging in and joining me today. And as ever, if you are watching on replay, it's always really helpful to put the hashtag replay on in the comments. That's really, really helpful for me. And yeah, see what you can do this week. And if you have any suggestions for doing something that doesn't involve plugging in something electrical that you found you can actually do, and that maybe gives you greater pleasure to do manually rather than electronically, share them. That would be really interesting. It might give people ideas. Anyway, that's it. Have a beautiful week and take care. Bye.